Good day, everyone. I'm Dr. Shalette Renee Griffin. I'm the founder of Williamsville Publishing. I'm a Gen X speculative fiction writer who write about systems that suppress the Black American community and our voices. This channel focuses on Black writers who use the art of writing to protest systems that suppress the African American life and an African American community. So, if that sounds great to you, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. In celebration of Black History Month, I'm creating a 4 video series called The Silent Switch Off, in which I explore why AI image systems like ChatGPT often reject Black historical prompts. I will also discuss strategies how to generate Black historical prompts without violating ChatGPT guidelines while also remaining ethical. And so I will go ahead and also discuss really images that you can create without being what I call direct. So we'll go ahead and discuss that in the second video. And again, as I said before, as a writer, I've been experimenting with ChatGPT for about 6 months now. So I'm basically sharing tips and things that I encountered in my journey, specifically when I write for Substack. Why, when I try to generate certain images, basically African American historical event type images, I've always get the X from ChatGPT violating guidelines, and so this second series we're going to actually talk about creating what I call ethical prompts to create really super what I call prompts to not only get that image that you need, but also getting the images without violating GPT guidelines. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so before we go into discussing the prompt framework, I just felt it was necessary to quickly just talk about the definition of a prompt. And I know probably most people, if you're on probably these videos, you probably know what a prompt is. But we may have some folks who are not familiar with that term. But basically, what a prompt is in the AI world is basically you're giving AI instructions on what to do, and that's basically what it is. You're just giving AI instructions, and the goal is you're giving AI instructions, specific instructions, because you're looking for a desired output. For example, if you want to generate an image of a cat eating, eating out of a bowl, you would give AI, you would tell AI to generate an image of a cat eating, eating out of a bowl. And so it's just using specific and direct language. And you're also giving instructions in a creative way. So really, a prompt is just giving instructions. So that's really the short end of really what a prompt is. And so here we go into the 6-part prompt framework, and there are a lot of frameworks. There's more than one. So this is only one of many frameworks that I am using to generate images. There's also prompts that people use to, let's just say, if I want to, I need a prompt to help me uh, give an overview of my LinkedIn profile. There's specific prompts for that. And so this specific prompt here is just for generating images. And like I said, there's more than one, but this is the one I just using because I felt this one is probably easier to teach from. And so the 6-part framework, in order to create instructions, the best prompts have what I call packed with information. So this prompt has 6 pieces. You got the subject, the action, the environment, the style, lighting, and composition, and any other information that you want to put in the prompt that will be helpful to order to generate the output that you want. Because the goal of the prompt is to generate that image that you want in your head. And so you know, the assumption is really not assumption, but you need to really know what image that you want as an output. And so it's not like you're going to ChatGPT like a genie saying, "Oh, okay, could you tell me?" No, you are giving instruction of what you want ChatGPT to output. So this is the six-part framework, and so we'll go ahead and define each piece. Okay, so the subject, and mainly is, what it is. What is the focus of the image? What is that person, that group of people? Who is the focus of the image? And so that basically is the really the most important piece in your prompt is, who is the focus in the image. And so here it says affected subjects include groups. It says groups rather than individuals. Like, for me, I kind of disagree with that because you can also have a prompt that focus on a focus on the individual, silhouettes or partial figures, clothing postures, role rather than facial detail. It could be some, but not heavily to the point where if it's more people focused, as we talked about in the first video, you probably gonna get an X from ChatGPT. You can use some of the likeness of the person, but it can't be so heavy that you're clearly, like, for example, you're clearly trying to generate an image of Martin Luther King. If it's at the point where you're detailing stuff where that it's him, you're probably gonna get an X. And so it's very important, again, your subject, you have to know, what subject you're talking about. And that's basically part of the six prompt framework. And so another piece, the action, is the image, is it they're standing, they're sitting down, they're holding something, they're running. What is the action as far as what the image is supposed to be doing? What type of movement are you trying to describe? So that's part of the framework as well. And all these parts of the framework, there's really no order per se, but I would say you want to keep the subject first. You want to keep that because we'll talk about why um, even putting the action, maybe third or putting the action last, that could change the output of your prompt. And we'll see an example of that later on in this video. But mainly you want to have the action. What is the engine? What's the images? What are they doing? So that's what we're going to put in our prompt. All right, part three. Another part is the environment. So, what's the setting? Are they at a lunch counter, the church, a bridge? So, what's the environment that the image is going to be in? And so that's important too when you create when you create your prompt, because if you don't tell ChatGPT what environment you want the image to be in, it'll just come up and create one on its own. So that's why you have to be specific in the type of environment that the image is going to sit in. Okay, so now we have I guess it's four, the style. And so again, you're describing what you want the output to look like as far as the style. You got black and white, or do you want it dramatic, retro, pop art? What do you want the output to look like at the end? And it's specific, but you need that because again, you don't want to leave it up to ChatGPT because it'll pull something that you probably don't want. So and that's where you have to iterate. And so this is part of another aspect into the six-part framework. All right, we call the lighting, the atmosphere. So and this is kind of part of the environment too, as far as the image. So is it going to be lighting? Is it going to be dark? Is it going to be flat? Um, the lighting it's great because it does create tension, and that tension is enough to really speak to the emotion that's going on in the image. And so without relying so much on facial emotion. And I had to learn that when I tried to generate an image for the sit-in lunch counter image, where the black students were sitting at the lunch counter, and I was describing the white server as being angry, and I was trying to really describe the anger that this white server expressed, and that was a community violation for ChatGPT, which I didn't understand is that I could use the emotion of lighting to create tension, and I had to iterate to make yeah, I had to iterate like gosh, so like I said, 5, 6, 7 times. It was awful, but I didn't know at the time. And so lighting the atmosphere can speak to the emotion in the image. Okay, composition. I think this is the last part in creating a prompt. And that's mainly you're talking about, you know, distance. Is it a close shot, wide, or is the image is being seen from like a distance? Uh, all of those things really play a role in the output. And I know it's a lot of information to put into a prompt, but that's the type of information that you're going to need to generate a strong prompt to get you that image that you want, that output that's needed. Because if you just come up with a flat sentence, and I think I'm getting ahead of myself, but here it is. Yeah, I was getting ahead of myself. All right, so let's just say, for example, the prompt is a dog sitting on a wooden bench. Okay, so I didn't tell ChatGPT, about the environment. I didn't tell ChatGPT the type of dog. I just typed in or just spoke to ChatGPT, a dog sitting on a wooden bench. So ChatGPT just said, "Hey, all right, I'm gonna create a dog," and we didn't even tell her what type of dog. It looked like maybe a lab, but when you say dog, there's a whole bunch of type of dogs that ChatGPT can create. And so because you don't tell it, it's going to create on its own. And look at the environment. We didn't say, in a park or in a house or even the weather. So ChatGPT just said, okay, I'm gonna put this dog on the wooden bench, which is really the only thing that it got correctly, because we specifically said a wooden bench. And so it put the dog sitting on a wooden bench. All right. So the next image, second sentence, a dog sitting on a wood bench on the moon. You know, word order is just as important as the word choice. And so, yeah, we have a dog. He's sitting on the bench. He's sitting on a wooden bench, and he's on the moon. So, did you mean, he's sitting on the bench, but he is sitting on the bench on the moon? Okay. And so we got another last sentence we have here, the last image, a dog sitting on the moon by the wooden bench. So we can see where we switched the wording, where, instead of us saying a dog is sitting on the wooden bench, now we switched the word around where we have a dog, he's sitting on the moon by the wooden bench. And you can see how um, changing the word order can make a difference in changing the output of your image. So that's why I said there's really no particular like order, as far as environment, the style. It's, you probably have to just keep iterating to get the image that you want. And that's really the goal, because the first time you do it, you may have that particular image that you want. And, the first time ChatGPT generates, that image, it may not be quite what you want. So that's why you have to just keep going back and keep iterating. But those are the pieces that you need in your in as the prompt formula. So let's put this all together now. So here we have the prompt formula, and I took from the last video we talked about the lunch counter sit-in. So I took a piece of that prompt to use as an example. So here we have, create you have to style image of a subject. And so even though, when we went through each one, the style wasn't listed as first. And so, like I said, there is no particular order, but the subject want to be somewhere in the beginning, up in the front of the prompt, which we do have here. So we have create a blank style image of a subject who is the action they got the environment with lighting and composition plus any other relevant information to help create that output that you want. So we plugged in all of those elements, from our prompt from the bottom, we went and plugged in. So the style is our black and white documentary. The subject is a group of African American college students, okay, and we talk about the environment. So what is the environment doing? So we're saying that the African American students, they're sitting, at the lunch counter quietly, and then we talked about basically it's at the lunch counter, the mid center diner. We talk about the, composition, what's the lighting like? And so, with overhead lighting, and then we talked about, the angle and any other information that will help generate that image. So the other information we added was emphasizing stillness and restraint. And so those are the pieces that help create a prompt to give you really the best the output. Again, because you don't want to just tell ChatGPT, I want to generate a cat sitting on the moon. Okay, and it's going to pull a cat. It's going to, we know there's a whole bunch of types of cats and everything. So you have to be specific in how to prompt your question. Okay, and so lastly, I guess it's lastly, I can't remember how many slides I have after this, but when you talk about the subject, really you're talking about people, person, a character, location, object. The next piece, the action, is the image standing, or they're holding something, they're running, they're underwater. What is the subject actually doing? The environment, indoor, outdoor, they're in Egypt, they're on a boat. Describe what the image is actually doing. And all of this is just you're being specific as you can when you're creating a prompt. The style, are you talking about a documentary? Are you talking about is the image just, is the output you want it to be more like a pop art? You want it more like a retro? You want more like a plushie? So that's you being really specific on the type of outcome that you want to see as far as the image, because it could generate an image, but it's not a documentary. It's a plushie, and if you're doing a series piece, you probably don't want it. You don't want the image to look like a plushie. You don't want the image to look like it's pop art, because you want to create whatever theme that best align with your story. So now, as far as the prompt framework, of course, you got your lighting, you want it, and the lighting helps the mood. You want it dark, you want it light, studio lighting, and, lastly, you have your composition where, is it a close up? Is it a far away? How do you want the image to look like? Do you want the reader to look like the image is far away? So all of that information, you know, creates the six-part prompt framework to give you the best generated image to specifically speak to uh, your writing or whatever piece that you need to complement whatever story or content that you're creating. Okay, so now we talk about the six, the strategies, and we really just went over the strategies. When you structure your prompt, you have to be deliberate. You have to be intentional and specific about exactly what you want. You want to define your style early. You want to go ahead and talk about your lighting, composition, all of that. And really, the important piece in your strategy is to continue to iterate. You got to continue to adjust any event that first prompt that you put in the chat GPT. If it's not what you want, then you have to, continue work with it and to change it. You may have to move maybe one element in front. You may have to take one element and move it in the back. But you're doing a lot of prompting and changing and adjusting to get that perfect image. Hey folks, I felt compelled to share with you information that I found on this website, and it's a law firm website. I have no affiliation with the website. I was actually just googling information about artificial intelligence as it relates to prompting. And so this particular law firm, this VLP Law Group, which I have no affiliation, I was just looking for information. And it's interesting that this particular law firm talks about, creators in being really careful in how you prompt. And I'm just going to go ahead and read. It says avoid prompts that specifically reference copyrighted characters, artist names, or distinctive styles. And instead, create images in the style of a famous artist, trying to describe the aesthetic elements you're looking for. And so, really, it talks about if you wanted to, create an image of, okay, Martin Luther King Jr., for example, you don't want to exactly create, his image, because that's a copyright, that's a trademark infringement. And let me just say this for disclaimer: I am not an attorney. I don't play one on television. I am just giving this information that I found on his website, and I was just doing research. And so this is why I create these videos, because we want to create prompts ethically. Okay, we want to make sure that we're not stepping on anyone's toes when we generate these images. And I know you guys seen a whole bunch of images of celebrities being created, in their likeness, and sometimes you can't tell if it's a real thing or not, because people are really getting creative with it. But that's not my goal here. I want to go ahead and help people create prompts that are ethical, and that people can, don't have to worry about having a takedown, because they're creating these images that look like the, celebrities or public figures. And so this is why it's important to really understand, the laws in respective to generating images. And I would just be on the safe side and, create the likeness of someone, as opposed to wanting to generate an image that, yeah, I want an image that look just like Martin Luther King. No, that's a violation. You don't want to go that route. You don't want to get a message from their state or somebody saying that you need to take down that image because it's a violation. If it's one thing if you can get, permission from folks to use their image, that's one thing. But if you want to generate an image to go with your story, to go with your article, you need to be careful. And so that's why, we went through that six prompt framework, because we can create the likeness of someone, and the audience know that that's that person that you're talking about, without having to create that direct image saying that, oh, this is MLK Jr. And so we want to prompt carefully. All right, folks. I was going to go into our next segment and give examples of the prompts and break each one of those down. But I realized this video is almost 30 minutes, so I'm going to cut it short for today. And so for our next video, we'll actually go into each prompt. We'll give an example of a prompt, an African American uh, image historical event prompt, and we'll just use the framework to break down each one of those prompts to see how the image is generated. But I'll end this for now because I didn't realize the video was almost 30 minutes. And so I hope that this video, hope you guys learned something from it. I know I did when I first was learning about generating images and learning how to prompt to get those images. Because as I said in the first video, I had a hard time generating the lunch counter protest prompt because I was using language that the GPT didn't like. And also, I had to iterate a lot, changing the descriptions and changing the placement of certain words to get the image that I want. So that's important too. So I encourage you all to go ahead and experiment. You got the framework. You can just plug in certain words for certain vocabulary to get the image that you want. So you can just go ahead and play around with it. And I hope this video served you. And I look forward to you all being on the next video so we can actually go through certain uh, prompts and get the image that we want. So again, thank you guys for sticking around. I know it's a long video, but again, it was a 6-piece prompt video, and I want to make sure you guys got the information. So again, have fun, happy prompting, and I will see you all in the next video.